The episode opens with a heavy feeling that hangs over everything. Nothing feels calm anymore. Every character carries the weight of what happened before, and even simple conversations feel loaded with meaning. The land, once seen as opportunity, now feels like a trap. Decisions made in silence are starting to echo louder than gunshots. People who once felt confident now move carefully, watching every word they say, because they know one mistake could destroy everything they've built. The tension doesn't come from action but from the fear of what's coming next. Every scene feels tight, like the air is running out. Characters don't need to say much because their faces already show the pressure. You can see it in the way they pause before speaking, in the way they avoid eye contact, and in the way they listen more than they talk. The land deal, once about money and power, now feels personal. It's no longer about winning, it's about surviving what comes after the truth starts to surface. This episode makes it clear that nobody is clean anymore. Every character has crossed a line. Even if they refuse to admit it, the past decisions they thought were buried are now shaping their future. What makes this moment powerful is how quiet it feels. No explosions, no chaos, just the slow realization that the game has changed. And once that realization hits, there's no going back to how things were. As the episode moves forward, the focus shifts to private conversations and closed-door meetings. These are the moments where real power is shown. Deals are hinted at, not spoken clearly. Promises are made without words. Every look carries meaning, and every pause feels intentional. The characters are no longer reacting, they're calculating. You start to see who is truly in control and who is pretending to be. Some characters speak with confidence, but their body language tells a different story. Others say very little, yet every word they choose carries weight. The tension grows because no one knows who to trust anymore. Allies feel temporary. Loyalty feels rented, not earned. This section shows how fear changes people. Some become more aggressive, trying to take control before it's taken from them. Others become cautious, choosing silence as their shield. The land itself feels like a battleground where every step could trigger consequences. What once seemed like a simple business now feels like a trap, slowly closing in on everyone involved. The most powerful moments come from what is not said. Long pauses, heavy stares, unanswered questions. The audience can feel that something is about to break, even if no one admits it yet. This is the calm that comes right before everything collapses. As the episode continues, loyalty becomes the most dangerous thing of all. Characters who once trusted each other now begin to doubt every move. Small signs of betrayal start to appear, not through big actions, but through hesitation. Someone hesitates to speak, someone avoids eye contact. Someone chooses silence when support is expected. These small moments carry huge meaning. They show that fear has replaced trust. Everyone is protecting themselves, even if it means turning their back on someone they once stood beside. The pressure forces people to reveal who they really are when the stakes are high. This section explores how power changes relationships. Friendship starts to feel like a liability. Loyalty becomes a risk. The more someone tries to hold onto control, the more they lose themselves in the process. The episode makes it clear that no one is safe from the consequences of their choices. By the end of this part, it's clear that lines have been crossed that can never be erased. The tension doesn't explode, it tightens, and that tension is far more dangerous than any open conflict. The final moments of the episode bring everything into focus. A single decision shifts the balance completely. It's not loud or dramatic, but it's final. This is the moment where the story moves from setup to fallout. The choice made here will shape everything that comes next. The characters don't celebrate. There is no victory, only realization. They understand that whatever comes next will be worse, harder, and impossible to control. The land, once a symbol of opportunity, now feels like a trap with no clear escape. As the episode closes, the tension doesn't release, it deepens. The silence at the end is louder than any argument. It leaves the audience with one clear message: nothing will ever be the same again. The game has changed, and everyone is already losing something they can't get back. The pressure inside this episode keeps rising, and nothing feels stable anymore. Every conversation feels like it could break into conflict at any moment. What makes this part of the story powerful is how quiet everything feels on the surface. Even though chaos is building underneath, characters are no longer speaking freely. Every word feels measured, every pause feels intentional. It's clear that trust is fading fast, and no one feels safe enough to speak honestly anymore. The tension grows as power slowly begins to shift. People who once felt untouchable now seem unsure of themselves. Their confidence fades with every passing moment, replaced by fear and doubt. Others, who once stood in the background, begin to realize they have more influence than they ever imagined. This silent power shift doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens through small choices, subtle moves, and careful silence. The episode makes it clear that control doesn't always come from strength. Sometimes it comes from patience. As conversations unfold, the fear of exposure becomes stronger. Secrets that were once buried now feel dangerously close to the surface. Every character knows that one wrong word could destroy everything they have built. This creates a constant tension where no one can truly relax. Even simple discussions feel loaded, as if every sentence could be used later as a weapon. The atmosphere becomes heavy, almost suffocating, as the truth threatens to break through. What makes this section so powerful is how it shows fear changing people. Some become aggressive, trying to dominate before they are dominated. Others pull back, choosing silence as a form of protection. Loyalty starts to feel like a risk rather than a strength. People begin to question who is really on their side, and who is just waiting for the right moment to turn. The emotional weight of these choices presses down on every scene. The land itself becomes a symbol of control and conflict. What was once seen as opportunity now feels like a trap closing in. Every deal connected to it carries consequences that no one can escape. The characters start to realize that they are not just fighting each other, they are fighting the situation they helped create. The power they wanted is now the very thing threatening to destroy them. As this part of the episode moves forward, the tension becomes almost unbearable. The silence grows louder, the looks between characters say more than words ever could. Everyone knows something big is coming, but no one knows who will be hit first. This slow build makes the danger feel more real than any action scene ever could. By the end of this section, the audience understands one clear truth: the game has changed completely. Trust is gone. Control is slipping, and the choices made now will shape everything that follows. Nothing feels safe anymore, and the path ahead is darker than anyone expected. The emotional weight of this episode begins to sink in, as relationships start to fracture under pressure. What once felt like loyalty now feels fragile, almost dangerous. Characters who once stood side by side begin to question each other's motives, and the trust that held them together starts to crumble quietly. No one says it out loud, but everyone can feel it, the sense that something important has already been lost and it may never return. What makes this part of the story so powerful is how deeply personal everything becomes. The conflict is no longer just about land, power, or money. It becomes about pride, fear, and survival. Each character is forced to confront who they really are when pushed to the edge. Some cling to their morals even when it costs them. Others abandon their values without hesitation, choosing survival over integrity. These choices don't happen in dramatic explosions, but in quiet, painful moments that reveal true character. As pressure builds, relationships begin to crack. Long-standing partnerships start to feel unstable. Conversations that once felt honest now feel staged, as if everyone is performing a role to protect themselves. Trust turns into suspicion, and every gesture is questioned. A simple look or pause suddenly carries meaning, and no one knows who is being truthful anymore. The emotional distance between characters grows wider with each passing scene. The episode also explores how power can isolate people. The closer someone gets to control, the more alone they become. They begin to lose the people they once relied on, not because they want to, but because power changes how others see them. Respect turns into fear, loyalty turns into obligation. And with that shift comes isolation. The characters who once felt strong now feel trapped by the very position they fought so hard to reach. There is a growing sense that everyone is being tested. Each character faces a moment where they must choose between doing what is right and doing what is necessary. These choices don't come with clear answers. No option feels clean or safe. The weight of these decisions hangs heavily over every scene, making even quiet moments feel intense. Silence becomes louder than words, and every decision carries consequences that cannot be undone. By the time this section reaches its end, it becomes clear that the damage has already been done. The emotional fractures are too deep to repair easily. Trust has been broken in ways that cannot be fixed with apologies. The characters may still stand side by side, but they are no longer united. Each one is moving in a different direction, driven by fear, ambition, or survival. This part of the story marks the true turning point, not because of a single shocking moment, but because of the slow realization that nothing will ever go back to the way it was. The path forward is uncertain, dangerous, and filled with consequences. And as the tension continues to rise, it becomes clear that the hardest choices are still ahead. Everything changes in this part of the story, not through chaos, but through realization. The weight of earlier choices finally settles on everyone involved, and there is no room left to pretend otherwise. What once felt like a slow burn now turns into a quiet reckoning. Each character begins to understand that the path they are on cannot be reversed. The future they imagined is slipping away, replaced by something colder and far more dangerous. The tension reaches a point where silence becomes unbearable. Words are no longer needed because the truth is visible in every expression. The smallest actions carry heavy meaning. A delayed response, a turn back, a moment of hesitation. All of it speaks louder than confrontation ever could. People are no longer reacting out of fear alone but out of desperation. They sense that time is running out and whatever happens next will define who survives and who falls. This section reveals how deeply the choices of the past have carved into the present. Every decision made earlier now demands payment. Some characters try to justify their actions, convincing themselves that they had no other option. Others finally realize that the power they chased has cost them everything that once mattered. Regret lingers in the air, thick and unavoidable. Yet even in regret, pride refuses to disappear, pushing them further down a path they know leads to ruin. As the pressure tightens, alliances quietly fracture, not through loud betrayals, but through absence, silence, and hesitation. People stop showing up, promises go unanswered, trust fades not with betrayal but with distance. The most painful realization is that no one is truly innocent anymore. Every character has crossed a line, and there is no way to undo it. The game they are playing no longer has clear sides, only survivors and casualties. The emotional weight of this section comes from what is left unsaid. Conversations end too early, confessions are swallowed, fear replaces honesty. The audience can feel how close everything is to collapsing, yet nothing explodes. That restraint makes the tension even heavier. It's the calm before something devastating, a moment where everyone senses the coming storm but lacks the power to stop it. As this part of the story closes, the sense of finality grows stronger. The characters are no longer asking what might happen next, they are bracing themselves for it. Whatever comes will not be small and it will not be kind. The lines have been drawn. The choice is made and the consequences are already in motion. The story has crossed the point of no return. And the fallout is no longer a question of if, only when. The final stretch of this episode carries a heavy sense of inevitability. Everything that has been building beneath the surface now feels impossible to ignore. The characters move forward not because they want to, but because there is no other direction left. The choices made earlier have closed every escape route, and what remains is a narrow path filled with consequences. There is no triumph here, only acceptance of what must come next. As the story reaches its closing moments, the emotional weight becomes almost overwhelming. The silence between characters speaks louder than any argument ever could. You can feel the distance growing, not just between people, but between who they were and who they have become. The ambitions that once drove them now feel hollow, replaced by regret and uncertainty. Each person carries the burden of knowing they helped create this outcome, whether through action or inaction. What makes this part of the episode so powerful is how final everything feels. There are no dramatic confrontations or explosive moments to release the tension. Instead, the story leans into restraint. Characters look at each other with unspoken understanding, aware that nothing will ever return to the way it was. Even hope feels fragile, like something that could break with a single wrong move. The consequences of earlier decisions begin to settle in. Power no longer feels rewarding. Control no longer feels secure. The land, once a symbol of opportunity and ambition, now stands as a reminder of everything that has been lost. It represents the cost of greed, pride, and silence. Every character seems to carry that weight differently, but none of them escape it. There's a quiet realization that some battles are already lost, even if the war continues. The choices made in this episode do not bring closure. They open wounds that will take much longer to heal. Trust has eroded to the point where even genuine intentions are questioned. No one knows who to believe anymore, and that uncertainty becomes the most dangerous force of all. As the episode comes to a close, the atmosphere remains heavy and unresolved. There is no sense of victory, only survival. The story does not end with answers, but with a warning. What comes next will demand even greater sacrifices, and not everyone will make it through unscathed. The ground has shifted permanently, and the world these characters once knew is gone for good. This final moment leaves the audience with a lingering sense of unease. The calm feels temporary, almost deceptive. Everything is set for what comes next, and the silence that follows feels louder than any explosion. The season has crossed a line, and there is no turning back from what lies ahead.